No, our tax rate is flat. But we're about 26% of the total tax
The first year I did it.
you get in the mail. Because the rest of it comes from the county.
And then I come back in and I look.
They'll raise. And a lot of it's also rates. Tab, yes. Only one passed away. So they're all living. In fact, I'm going to make mention of him. He's 100.5. And he was bombing Germany in World War II. He's one of the stories that I developed. So I'm interviewing living veterans, writing up their stories and posting them on the website.
That's great. I think that's really nice thing to do.
Yeah.
People
So
appreciate it. Hey, Evelyn, I'm Dave Goldberg.
Okay,
Time to start.
you as well. No, I live in Braemar Isle.
Okay.
yeah, right now, but did you live?
No, actually, I almost did. I looked at an apartment there when I was first looking at apartment.
Okay, can we take our seats, please?
So he's interested in expectation. He wants to play ball.
He said he wants to, he sent me an email, said he wanted to go after Peggy's seat. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Present.
Commissioner David,
Present.
Commissioner Gossick-Seidman is not here yet. Mayor Hillman,
Present.
Vice Mayor Moore is also not here. Town Manager Labadie
Present.
and Town Attorney Trisivia, sorry.
Thank you. Everybody, please check your cell phones. And can we stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anybody have any adjustments to make for the agenda?
Mayor, if I may, probably put it under the last business item, since Commissioner Shoemaker, if we wanted to engage in a deeper conversation regarding Gulfstream, we could. Or I could just give you a real basic presentation. It's up to you all. What would you, but if you think you're going to ask a lot of questions or want to engage with Jeff and I, maybe I'll put it on the agenda so we can have a deeper discussion.
Well, it's still early though.
It's early. I was just going to give you just a background on the reports. Okay.
I'd be good with that.
Okay.
Well, we can put it as E under new business.
Or I could
What?
just do it under manager's reports. It's up to you.
Put it under your manager's
Okay.
report.
In that case, I move we accept the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Okay, we'll move on to presentations. Begin one with, an ethics presentation from Rhonda Geiger. Did I get that right, Geiger? Oh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's more just, I handed out some booklets and I put some on the table.
We're going to turn the mic on.
I have a pretty good speaking voice, so.
But it's for the recording.
Your mic, friends.
I've given all of you our booklet. I've put some on the table as well. Also inside of the booklet is my business card. I'm your liaison for the commission, as well as a little card. As always, we want to remind everybody to ask first, act later. Ask us ahead of time. We're here. We're happy to help. We're happy to give advisory opinions. We definitely want to be proactive with respect to any questions you might have on actions or voting or discussions or anything along those lines where you think there might be a potential conflict. So just be sure to let us know. You can reach out either to me directly or to anybody in the Ethics Commission. There's also a general email there if you want to do it that way, if anybody has any questions. So just basically we're here if you need us. And yeah, let us know.
I have a question.
Okay.
We as commissioners go through ethics training every year, right? And I always find it fascinating when you go through the examples and they challenge you with all of that sort of thing. But it's interesting, our taxpayer residents are interested in the ethics, especially regarding procurements. Is there a place that we could advise our residents to go to review these ethics that we're held to?
Yes, absolutely. Everything's online. So if you go to the Ethics Commission, everything is online. You'll see all the forms, you'll see all the vendor forms, you'll see all of the things that have to be filled out, submitted, gift forms, everything is on the commission website. Bear in mind though, there's the state ethics guidelines, which I think is what you typically go through, and then the county guidelines. So this would just be applicable to the county.
Yeah, this is county versus sunshine.
Correct,
I understand. But okay, so what we might want to do then, Marshall, is just in your minutes, make a note that, for residents who have an interest in the ethical requirements, not only for us, but, for running our state and city and county, just to reference it so that they can go and see, so that they don't think that, we're doing things underhanded in any way.
And there is also a video training on there that you can watch.
Perfect.
It's meant that, it's meant for people to take, for us to take, but it's open to anybody.
And until you came along, I'll be honest with you, I haven't gone to the website to do that because again, of the commitment for our formal training in person when we have these meetings.
Right. Well, everything's on there. All of our advisory opinions are published. All of the investigations are, there's a lot of information and it's all available to the public.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Thank you.
I
so much
thought
for
you
having
were
me.
going to ask about when the press is calling on us all the time and bothering us every 10 minutes.
That's when you talk to your town
No,
people.
he's standing right behind you there. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and we also have Erica Whitfield here to talk to us about what's happening in the schools in Palm Beach County. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Erica Whitfield. I've actually been your school board member for the last 8 years. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this job. And I was having a conversation with one of your island residents recently and, talked about all of these municipalities along the beachfront here that I haven't really been visiting over the last 8 years. And I felt like I needed to remedy this situation. You don't have any schools, so we don't ever come to talk about your schools, but you do pay a lot in taxes. And so I felt like the least that I can do is try to open the lines of communication. And if you have any concerns or questions, I hope that you will rely on me. And I'm hoping that I can come back and continue to talk to you about what's going on in your schools. So briefly today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about finances and what we've been doing. And I do believe you all know these last few years have been pretty terrible for the schools and for our community, and how difficult it was when we went through the pandemic and went to virtual learning, had a hybrid situation where we ended up doing both in-person and online education. It's been very difficult for us, but I feel like Palm Beach County was in a particularly good place because we had put a lot of things in place following Stoneman Douglas. One of the things after the Stoneman Douglas tragedy that we were able to do is we had gone to the community and asked for a referendum. The referendum was a 4-year referendum. It's actually coming up for renewal in November. So I may come back if you don't mind in the fall to talk a little bit about that again and remind your residents about it. But that made it so that we were able as a community to put mental health resources in every one of our schools. And this is something that we did because of Stoneman Douglas to really prevent a tragedy like that, catch situations that were happening with our students before they got to a bad situation. And I think we've done a very good job. We have a behavioral health professional in every school because of that funding that you all have given us. And we've also been able to even give funding to our teachers to kind of help with their wages and safety and security. We have been able to expand our police department with those dollars. We've actually been able to make sure we had an officer in every school. So following Uvalde and all of the questions we're getting about that, I know it must be on your minds too, is what are we doing to take care of our students? We actually had prepared ourselves quite well following Stoneman Douglas with all of this funding that we went and asked the residents here for, and we were so fortunate to be able to receive. So going back to how schools are funded, on your property tax, you're going to see that 6.875 mils goes to the schools. It's a lot of money, especially when you're talking about the wealth of the homes here in Highland Beach. So all of that funding, what happens with it? Well, the state looks at how much money we're able to pull in with our property tax dollars, and then they decide how much that they're going to give in addition to that. So we're considered a donor county, which means we give more from Palm Beach County to the state or to our local schools than the state average. So we're at about 60% of paying for our funding for schools here, and then the state contributes a 40% of that. If you're looking at a different county, maybe one that's not quite as well funded as we are, it may be that the state pays up to 70% and they're just paying a 30%. So it makes sense why we're considered a donor county. So we were able to get that 1 mil of property tax from you all. That has paid for safety and security, as I mentioned, also the behavioral health programs that I mentioned. But in addition, the choice programs in our schools, our choice programs are very, very important. My daughter's actually attended one the entire way through school. I have a 14-year-old and actually a 2-year-old coming up. So very, very engaged in our school system. She'll be attending Suncoast in the fall. She's starting high school, and that's one of our premier schools in this county. I'm very, very proud of the work that they do. But that's all because we were able to get this additional funding for arts, music, PE, and our choice programs. So that's almost 600 school positions that are funded through your referendum dollars to be able to create these choice programs so everyone can go to the school that fits their child. Also, we have one other referendum that you all should know about, which is we asked for, you'll remember a few years back, a full penny went to the cities and to the county and to the schools. Half of that penny comes to the school board. That funding comes directly to us, and we use that the idea in the beginning was just to improve our schools and create infrastructure improvements. But as I mentioned with Stoneman Douglas, we really needed to look at how safety and security was being done at our schools. And so we've created single point entry for all of our schools, which means that everyone comes in one way and they're checked before they can go into the school. So we don't have multiple entrances that you can use now. And we were able to do that because of the funding that we got from you for that half penny. The other thing we were able to do was to create more video coverage in our schools. So we're able to have cameras that work, which is amazing, throughout the schools, so you can see what's going on. And our police department that was expanded has eyes on that right there at the district headquarters where they can look. And actually, one of the things we want to do is to have people like yourselves, if you're interested, come and see what we're doing within our school system, so you can see kind of our command operations, so you understand, because people are concerned about what is happening in our schools, and we want to make sure that our leaders really understand that. The other thing that we were able to do, which is amazing, is that when COVID happened, we used that funding to make sure that we had a one-to-one device for all of our almost 200,000 students throughout Palm Beach County schools. So we were able to buy a computer for everyone, which was a huge purchase. But it helped us be able to get through that time when students were either working at home or working in a school, keeping everybody on the same page. And so we wouldn't have been able to do that without all your help. Finally, I just want to say, as a state, we are 44th in the country as far as ranked for funding. So there are, only six states doing worse than us as far as funding from the state. But Palm Beach County gives so much money to their schools that we're able to make these changes to be able to pay for the teachers, to give them the extra funding that we've been able to do. We actually give about an extra $8,000 on average. That can be like anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 on average to like supplement salaries. So we're able to do that. And we're able to keep our schools safe and secure with our own police force that we've been able to give raises to. And we're now starting to see that we're able to actually be more competitive. You all have your own police force. You must understand the struggles of keeping up with PBSO, but we are trying as well. So we're very proud of our recent work there. And so there will be, as I said, a referendum coming up in November, again, to get back to that. And obviously there'll be another one. I believe the half penny will be coming back to you. We're thinking in 2024. So kind of keep that on your radar. But I didn't want to take up too much of your time today. If you all have any questions for me, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Well, I have 5 grandchildren.
Excellent.
And all of them are in private school because of the rejection by my son and daughter of public schools. So, and the reasons, you ticked off quite a few, safety. When you say single entry, what happens in the event of fire? Is there multiple?
Plenty of exits.
Exits.
Lots of exits.
But they can open from the inside, but not from the outside.
Yeah, we have fire codes that we stick to, but just making sure we check people when they come in before they get in. We actually, scan them, make sure that we know who they are.
So safety, Zoom is
we're done.
Just
it's all over now.
Awful.
Yeah.
Behavioral health, I guess that's your tag for mental illness kind of problems.
Yep.
The issue of the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, what's the focus? Woke concepts, CRT and gender identity and all that kind of craziness.
Yeah.
Do we have a problem with that in the public schools that is in this county?
We do not, but let me go dive into that just a little bit more. So as far as CRT, we don't teach it. We're actually going through everything to make sure that we don't teach it. We have all the laws that came down from the state. And let me be very clear, in my position, just like yours, you follow the laws of the state. That's what we're going to be doing. So we have gone through and we've actually gone through and made sure to create policies and procedures that will review everything in our system. So we're going through everything that we have just to make sure that we're in compliance with these laws. The state has come back and said that we need to be in compliance with the K-3 portion. That's what we need to do first. So the K-3 portion about the talking about sexuality and gender, that we won't be talking about that. So we've been going through and we've pulled a couple of books. It's a very small handful of books that we found that they don't necessarily fit. They're in a holding place right now until they're officially evaluated. And there's going to be some conversations with the Department of Education just to make sure we're on the right page with that. But that's something that we have taken on, we're actually not due to have that completely in place until July 1st. We started 2 months ago, because as soon as it happened, we came out and we said, we're going to be in compliance. So that's what we're doing, just to make sure. But by and large, I think you'd be proud of the education that children receive in our schools. The teachers are just normal people that are, teachers in our community. They work here. They
Normal.
don't,
I'm glad to hear normal.
well, they do. They want to, I mean, I send my kid there. I want people who are just going to teach education. So I think that there's been a lot of, focus put on this, whereas the real education that's going on is something that I'm very proud of. And I think you would be too, when you get to see people interacting. You mentioned a comment too about one other thing that I wanted to grab onto. Oh, the behavioral health. I wanted to just say, everyone in the school system gets like a basic exposure. So we do like a little bit of education where the kids will be in a class and they'll talk about, mental health overall, and just kind of talking about how it's important. If you ever have a problem, you talk about it. We have kids going through divorce. We have kids going through, maybe a parent having some sort of an issue, or they're having some kind of concerns. There's a basic level of just educating on what it is. But then if you get to you have an actual problem going on, it's kind of like tiered levels. So then you'll get a little bit of something from the inside people, from the counselors that are on the campus. But if it gets to a higher level, we actually will send the children out to outside organizations that we partner with throughout the county that'll actually, they either will come into the school and do work with a student, or they'll get them like therapy sessions outside of the school. So then we have basically helped them get into a higher level of therapy. And then one thing Mr. Torsivi and I were just talking about, I'm actually now on the healthcare district board as well. I just got appointed a few months back. Very excited about it, but they're working on a larger mental health for the community. And so creating those like a mental health hub for our services. So if somebody gets to like that really high level of need, like our kids that we have Baker Act, where they want to hurt someone or themselves or someone else. Now we're talking about that intensive, may need to be staying overnight, getting that intense therapy. The healthcare district and the school district are now going to be collaborating to try to even emphasize that more. It's something I'm really passionate about. And I think when you start talking about all the stress that our kids have been under with not being in school for 2 years, like you said, Zoom is terrible, and it, we're all over it. Nobody wants to do it anymore. We're getting over that, but we're also dealing with, there's been a lot of school shootings, and that's terrifying. So how do we deal with that? I think we figure out when a kid's having a problem earlier on and try to deal with it.
So do we have a police officer in schools?
Every school.
Every
Yes,
school.
for years now.
And the last point I make of the 6 drugs.
Drugs.
You haven't mentioned that. And there's a lot of visibility going on right now about drugs in schools. What can you say about that for us?
So there's occasionally drugs. We have rules against it, and you do get expelled if you get caught with them on there. So I actually have gotten to, unfortunately, expel quite a few children over the time. Usually there isn't like a huge amount of it. So we actually do check for weapons as well. That's a zero tolerance event. So we have the right to go through anyone's bag anytime that we want within the school, and they do. So sometimes they'll come across marijuana or a different type of drug. Anything over marijuana generally doesn't occur. We don't really see it. And actually, a lot of mental health can be tied into if they're doing drugs, right? So if a kid is struggling, that might be something that gets identified through that process of seeing that they're on some sort of drugs. But so occasionally we'll find marijuana in a bag. But it's actually not all that common. The kids generally just don't bring it to campus.
An outstanding review. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I thank you for looking out for the safety of the children in this county, that you are very proactive. And when something happens someplace else, you don't wait for it to happen here. And I commend you for that. That's terrific. Thank you.
It's one of my biggest fears. We're going to fight this as hard as we can, make sure we take care of the kids.
Peggy, anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm up in Tallahassee. Thank you for coming in to speak to us. I wondered, in what occasion do you call the parent in, and how much do you involve parents with your so-called children who may have problems or troubles?
Well, we should always call the parents. They should always be called. One of the concerns we've had recently about the parents' Bill of Rights that's come through that's frustrated me is truthfully that we should be doing all that work anyway. We've always felt like we should be. So I believe in Palm Beach County, we try. If we're not, I've asked parents to please ask us, let us know, let me know, tell me that, you heard that a child wasn't being called. With the Baker Acts in particular, you're talking about that super high level. We are actually we've revised our policies recently to make sure that we are contacting the parents first and that they have the opportunity to transport their child if it's possible. So sometimes when you're talking about a Baker Act, and this gets very, very detailed, but sometimes the students are afraid of their parents or something that's happening with their parents. So we have to be very careful with that situation to make sure they're getting the services, even if the parent doesn't want them to have it. But that's a very extreme situation. Most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, the parent should be involved early and often and be engaged in everything that's going on with their child. And that's something that I've been really striving for, is to make sure that we're making sure that our parents know everything that's going on with their kids. And if it's not, that's a failure in the system that we need to fix. So I know there's been a lot of talk nationally and statewide about this, but I do believe Palm Beach County, you have a lot of people that really care, that are really working to make this happen. And so I want to continue that. And if you're seeing an issue, let us know as soon as possible and we'll fix it.
Sure, thank you. And what do you do if a child does not want to have the parent involved? What's the course of action for you?
It would have to depend on the incident. Unfortunately, I can't give a better answer than that. But if the child doesn't want the parent involved and it's something of a risk to the child and the parent needs to be involved, then we will involve them. But it really comes down to what's the level of risk. And so you'd need professionals that would be able to determine what's happening with that kid. But I mean, very few instances is it something that we wouldn't. I mean, sometimes you may have like an abuse situation where a child may not want the parent involved for something like that. And we would probably work with DCF to make sure that there was some sort of supports there for the kid before, we were handing them back over after having revealed some kind of private information. So we are cognizant of that. We do have, like I said, I think we're up to 100 and almost 170,000 kids now. Post-pandemic, we went down a tiny bit, but the number of types of things that can happen is quite varied, and we get a lot of them. So we have to make sure that we're doing what's right for that family, but parental involvement is completely important. I'm a parent. I want to be involved in everything. I want them to tell me anything that's going on. I don't want anybody to have conversations with my child that I'm not engaged in. And so that's very important.
Sure. And I wondered, to what degree do you all involve parents in the curriculum? I know that's been an issue nationwide. Just wondered what your
huge thing nationwide. Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. So most of our curriculum comes from the state. So we implement what the state gives us. The books are approved by the state. Most of it we're getting from there. Occasionally we'll add some things in. We have some professionals that'll add some things in. But like last year, we had some questions about some things that were happening in our human sexuality curriculum, which I can understand people are, interested in. So we made that completely open and we said, come on into our schools and the principal will walk you through every single thing that's happening if you have questions. And then you can always opt your child out of absolutely anything that you don't want them to be in. Some things, we recommend that they do, but we allow the parents to be part of that completely. The other thing we've always allowed parents to do is if they're having an issue with like the state testing, which was very popular maybe 5 years ago, people got upset about that. They could opt their kids out of that. And we created a path for them to graduate their classes and pass on to the next grade without having to even do the state testing. So I believe that we are trying to be engaged in this process and open up. Everything should be available to our families so they understand what's happening. But there has been a national conversation about that. And so to me, I feel like Palm Beach County, I don't know if you know, we're an A-rated district. We're actually doing we're one of the best in the state of Florida, if not the best urban in the entire state of Florida. We usually have the highest scores. We're currently beating the state post-pandemic. So like we're doing a very, very good job here. And I'm very proud of what we're doing. And some of these issues may not apply to us, but if we're failing in any area, let us know. Let us know that something's going wrong because we want to fix that.
Okay, thank you very much for a terrific job and answers. Appreciate it, your time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody here that has children in the school system would like to ask Erica a question? Go right ahead.
got a few questions. Could you restate the school board's commitment to the parental bill of rights that's recently been
Oh, absolutely.
developed?
Yeah. So it passed last week. There was a lot of concern about, how like our LGBTQ students may feel pressured by it. We explained to them that, we're going to be passing it. It's going to happen. It's something that we're already doing. So we did pass it. It went through without a problem I think we had one person vote against it, but it went through without a problem. My goal has always been and will always be to support children, make sure they feel welcome in our schools, no matter who they are. Every child should feel supported. But in addition, we're also going to be following the law. And so the state of Florida has made this law. If that becomes a question and something happens, we'll then change. But throughout everything that's happened, I know there's been some concerns about differences between us and the governor. We've never broken the law. That's been very, very important to me. And we will not break the law. So through this whole time, yes, we committed to parents having the right to see anything about their children and to be involved in their child's education to whatever degree they feel that they need to. It's very important to us. Another question.
I know the Zoom was never really popular with everybody, but the county made a huge investment into classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd hope that we never have to use it again for all of us that have kids or soon to have kids in the schools. Is there any way to use that equipment for when kids potentially we get another push or wave and they miss 5 days of school? Can the teachers just turn it on so we can see so the kids can get what the instruction from home when they're not allowed to come into school?
So we did actually apply to the state to ask them that question. And we asked if it would be possible for us to do that. And the state denied our request. So we are not allowed to by the state. But we thought it would be great, right? So your kid's homesick and that's a problem. The other issue is some teachers don't love the idea of people being able to turn a camera on and watch what's going on all the time in their classroom. So that was a balance that we were trying to deal with. But we did apply to the state. We asked, they said no. But I want you to know that your equipment that you paid for is still being used frequently. We have smart boards in every classroom and they are used all the time and they're fabulous. So it's like this huge board that you can put anything up onto. The teachers can actually use their finger and draw like a math equation, like mark through on things. And then all the computers, like my daughter has been going to school since the absolute minute that we were allowing children back in the building. I was like, you will be there. And so she has to bring her laptop with her every day, the school assigned laptop. It was like Google Chromebooks that we bought for everyone. And they use it in the classroom constantly. They're always bringing it out and they can type, they can do their lessons, they can do their homework right there in class. The teacher can share stuff from that smart board directly to their computer right in front of them. So I think what you'll see is that funding was well spent. It was something that we always wanted, but the pandemic gave us that push. And so we were able to dedicate those funds where we would have probably waited a few more years to get to that point.
Teague, daughter in school. Anybody else?
If you guys need me for anything, my email address is erica.whitfield@palmbeachschools.org. I can be found on the website and call me anytime. Let me know. If you guys seriously have any questions, I try to be the most open school board member and try to talk to everyone that I can. And it really is my fault for not have coming here sooner, realizing the connection and that you might be interested. So anything you need from me and any interest you have in your schools, This is my absolute passion. And I'm very glad.
You have been most informative. Thank you for spending time with us and you are always welcome here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Okay. David, you had a few words for us? This is David Goldberg. He serves also on our Financial Advisory Board, and he wanted the microphone for a while. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. As you stated, my name is Dave Goldberg. I'm a resident of Regency Highland. I wanted to speak this morning because I think we have a great opportunity here in Highland Beach. I first started coming to Highland Beach about 35 years ago when I was 12 years old. And at that time, it was a quiet little community. In 2007, I had the first opportunity to move to Highland Beach when I was single and very happy. Now, fast forward, I have a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old boy who are attending the public schools here and making Highland Beach home. And we use a lot of the resources here in Highland Beach, including the library, the kids area, the beach. And so, when I started to hear the town manager Labadie start to talk about the fire station and potentially moving it to the middle of the property is when I got excited, right? So if we start to think back to say 2007, when I first moved into Highland Beach, we had what we would call respectively the seniors, which are now our super seniors. My point is we have a new generation of people moving into town here, and what they want is community. I believe what people want is community. So the opportunity of what town manager Labadie proposed in moving the fire station to the middle of the property, I believe would actually be really great for the residents. And I think if we could ask the commission to fully evaluate that as you go through this process, that'd be great. I think if we start to look at the future, just based off of what we're doing with the food trucks, imagine what we could potentially do in the future. We could bring in hundreds, potentially maybe over 1,000 people to one of these events, because people, I believe, are dying to be part of the community. People want to be connected to Highland Beach, and people want to do things with Highland Beach. So I'm here to tell you, I think the best is ahead for Highland Beach, and the things that we can do to prepare this property with the fire station can really set us, in the right direction.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Takes care of public comments, announcements, board vacancies. Board of Adjustment and Appeals has one vacancy for a 3-year term. Natural Resources and Preservation has one vacancy for an unexpired term that runs through the end of April of 24. Upcoming meetings and events, July 4th, Town Hall will be closed for Independence Day. July 7th is Financial Advisory Board meeting at 2 o'clock. July 12th at 1 o'clock is the Code Enforcement regular meeting. July 14th is a Planning Board regular meeting. August 2nd, 1:30 is Town Commission meeting. Back on July 14th, the Planning Board meeting is at 9:30. There's a board action report attached was the Code Enforcement meeting. It's for information only. I don't think there's any action to be taken on our part unless somebody has a comment.
No, I have a question. We're not having a regular commission meeting in July?
July 19th.
July 19th, not listed on here.
Not listed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No ordinances, no consent agenda, unfinished business, update on fire rescue implementation. Turn it over to Marshall.
Wait, before we go there, I have one comment about
Comment on
this, on the code enforcement
Oh,
report.
sorry, go right ahead.
While this is lovely, I find it less than helpful if I don't know exactly what the complaint was. They're
On-
finding people guilty of
Okay, I
things,
happened to watch that meeting.
but I'd
so-
like to know what was going on. I mean, in the future, when I see a report, I would like them to say, okay, this is what the charge was, and this was the finding.
Okay, we've been pushing them to reduce the minutes, but your point's totally valid.
You know, just one sentence
One
doesn't have to
sentence,
be, yeah.
what the violation was, and then what the result
Right.
was. Good point.
That was my same
Yeah,
question.
one sentence would cover it.
I actually asked Miles Slam, the chairman of the
Mhm.
Yep.
code enforcement, and it begs a question with an answer that says,
Yeah.
here's what they did wrong, because we need to
I
understand. what
sent
they
you,
did wrong.
you're probably referring to the one that was charged, the charges were reduced to $1,000.
Monterey House. That we're talking about.
Was that the one, was that at the Monterey House, the one that was reduced to $1,000?
Well, I didn't see
That was
that.
9B,
It's-
whatever it was.
No, yeah, 9B. I don't know if they were part of Monterey House, because just before it is the Monterey House. That's 9A. So I assume it is.
In any event, we have no idea what was going on in any of them, so it would be good to know.
I mean, you can see the Monterey House is undergoing massive construction, rehab.
Yes,
So in that.
that particular one was work was being done a total renovation was being done and the gentleman had no permit. That was plain and simple. The one below it was work was being done and again, no permit.
These are individual units, not the
Mhm.
building itself.
These are individual owners
I-
in
I
their
see.
unit. Both of them
I got the
were
impression it
being
was
done
about
without
the
permits.
building, given
No.
all of the work that's going on.
No,
I
they
see.
were both individual.
Oh,
owners.
that's better. That's much better news.
Yeah.
You don't want to see
One
problems.
was a
with-
fellow that was out of town, had a contractor that should have applied for permits, didn't. He was unaware of it.
Usually is a contractor problem.
But yeah, you're right. Opening sentence should describe it. Agreed. Okay, move on. Okay, on to you, Marshall. Fire rescue update.
Fire. The biggest thing is, again, I said it during the budget meeting, I say it again for those that missed that, the COPCN documents have been delivered. They have been delivered. So the county has them. They've have our formal request to operate emergency medical rescue. So now we'll move into the process throughout the summer and early fall. Our consultants are here. If there's any questions as we move forward specifically to the process or who reviews what, they're here to help answer those questions. But we did submit those documents and again, ahead of our initial schedule. So thank you. Thank you. So we got those things submitted.
On that,
Yeah.
Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah.
Can I ask? We just covered that a little bit, that, yeah, it's been submitted and we're now looking for approval, but there's a process to get approval. It looks like that won't happen until September, October, November timeframes. Is there any risk that we should know about or any concerns that we should know about? Because that COCPN is critical.
Yeah.
That's the gating item to everything going forward.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Tom McCarthy. I'm your emergency medical services consultant for the fire department project. So the COPCN application was completed to the best of we're able to do at this point in time, minus having personnel rosters, et cetera. And so as Teresa dropped off the completed package on Friday to the county emergency operations center, it is now being reviewed internally by their staff, their subject matter EMS personnel. When they complete the review of it, it will then go before the EMS Advisory Council, which is comprised of folks from the public, folks from the fire service, folks from private sector EMS. Labor, I believe, has a seat at that table as well. So on July 21st, they'll review that application. Once they review that application, they then make their recommendation to and through the emergency operational personnel to the Palm Beach County Board of Commissioners. So that's the process. So once it gets to the Board of County Commissioners, that's when majority of the time I've never seen one come back from the Board of County Commissioners. By that point in time, from the staff review to the EMS Advisory Council review, all the T's should have been crossed and all the I's dotted.
So is there any political risk, given we have so many different agendas involved in this?
Commissioner Shoemaker, politics is your realm. That is not my realm.
I don't consider myself a politician, believe me, but.
I've seen, yes, I concur.
Okay, well, obviously the concern is that we need to make sure we get this done.
That is absolutely correct. And that's always been our mission as a collective between manager, Teresa, and staff here behind us. That's been our mission. No matter what the document says, we will fulfill the obligation of that document. Anything outside of that is it's not a world that we have the luxury to live in, nor should we be living in that world.
Exactly.
If we have a document, if we have rules of engagement, we'll fulfill those rules of engagement.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Quite welcome.
Okay,
So with that being submitted, then now we're starting to execute some of those other items. You'll have the EMS vehicle here as the next item to authorize us to move forward with the purchase agreement. The fire station, as we just got public comment on, it looks like it will fit behind the building and it'll work. Sam is working on a few things that I'm leaning heavily on him to figure out that aren't exactly easy, which is the connection between the two buildings. I really want it to be connected. it can exist independent, but I really want it to be connected. I think that would make a world of difference. So he's working on those documents. We gave him a couple of the other drawings that we have. So we've kind of gone through our archives and found structural drawings. So he has a better understanding of where everything is and in place. So that's moving forward.
Before you leave that though, it would
sir.
seem the other major issue with putting it in the middle is fast egress or exit from the
Not an
property. It's not a problem. We'll have to have.
Well, there'll be
systems in place.
some systems or improvements to alert folks that we are, again, a siren's pretty loud, but we'll have other things that are out there to let folks know that we are in active response and move out, and we have the ability to back in and handle the two bay station.
Well, if we keep the front driveway the way it is, I could see somebody coming through and, crashing into the fire truck. Do we have a gate?
We could drop a gate in there, something like
That'll
that.
get taken care
All
of.
right, I'm just trying, those
Sure.
are the two big concerns that I had heard earlier and that people might be thinking about.
Sure.
Not an issue.
Done.
So we're going through all that process. I know there's other, some parking issues. We're still got to work out those bigger site development elements that I think Sam is starting to jump into. We have a schematic or a plan for what the floor plan basically looks at. I'm just pushing him harder to connect the two buildings. I think he can. It might just test his skill set and creativity. That's going on. We're active in the fire recruitment process. We'll kick that off later this week, putting together the selection panel, going through a first review of applicants to see qualification, what makes sense. So that process, again, I'm leaving it to be a little bit more of a dynamic and organic process to see how many candidates shake out to determine our next steps at the commission level, how you all will engage with the finalists and let me know how you feel and who looks best to you. So that's still down the pipeline. We want the panelists together and then go through our first screening and see what we got, what shakes out there. Other than that, everything else looks good. Fire code's in place. Again, it's really the design. Once we get the chief in place, then again, we'll start looking at the refining the protocols and procedures and practices and how we're going to recruit. All of those fine details really should lie with who we choose as our fire chief rather than myself and the committee to put those pieces together. The chief should really have those last little bits of influence and ability to guide and develop. So fire's going well. We're in a very good spot. Now let's just hope there aren't any outside influences that unduly affect the process. I hope there isn't. I haven't got that vibe, but you never know. You never know what might just shake out. So we have contingency plans, and if I call you and say, start calling folks, then, we're into that phase. So hopefully we can follow the protocols as Tom had just laid out and just do what's been asked and do it professionally. Hopefully that's enough to get us across the finish line. That's
Okay. Ready to move on? Okay, let's talk ambulance. It's on page 10. We have all the experts here. So I'm going to turn it over to T. And then T can introduce it, and then we'll bring the experts up to answer any of our questions.
Good afternoon, Teresa Cuevas, Town Manager's Office. So today, as another step in putting together our fire rescue department, before the commission is the approval for the town manager to purchase the EMS vehicle. Previously, we had a discussion that the commission would like us to go forward with a type 1 EMS vehicle. So that's what we have proposed today. There's also some capital items that are included in the purchase. So the amount is not to exceed $300,000. So if there's any specific questions on any of the documents included, I will turn that over to Tom.
Come on down, Tom. You'll notice there is a list of all of the items to be included. It's rather significant. Tom, why don't you take us through why we selected the vehicle that we selected, and then highlight a couple of the key items that we want to include in it?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Thank you.
I'd be more than happy to. So the item that we selected is a Crestline built rescue truck. And the reason I have to put it to you like that is because the chassis is a commercial chassis. The chassis that happens to be part of this project is the Chevrolet chassis. And it's a Chevy pickup truck. It's not a normal one. It's a 3500. It's very robust. So it'll carry the box that gets manufactured to put onto it, which makes it a type 1 rescue truck. So that checks the first box. That boxes need to be checked for it to become an ALS licensed vehicle. The next box that needs to be checked is to be able to utilize it to transport patients, the sick and injured, from the event to the hospital. So those items are the stretcher and the stretcher, what they call a stretcher keeper. So those are the floor plates that go into the back of the truck that then the stretcher moves into, and it locks it securely into place. Not to bore you too many details, but several years ago, some new specs got promulgated and then approved for a specific type of stretcher holder that gets mounted onto the floor of the rescue truck. So the next items that have to be purchased in conjunction with these things is going to be the EKG monitor. So that's an EKG monitor that can monitor a basic 4-lead EKG. It can also monitor a 12-lead EKG to detect heart attacks. And it can also provide defibrillation. When the heart is quivering, they can then counter shock it. So that's a mission critical piece of equipment to be an ALS rated vehicle. We also see in there that we have the compression device made by Lucas, and it's sold by, forgive me, it's sold by Stryker. So that is a device that goes onto a patient that's experiencing a cardiac arrest, and it delivers high efficiency, high quality, high volume chest compressions. And so that is the artificial heartbeat until the medications and the electricity can take over to get the heart back pumping. So that is also a mission critical piece of equipment. Also inclusive of those devices, we also have the stair chair in there. So the stair chair is an item that gets purchased from the same company that sells us the stretcher. That stair chair is a really important piece of equipment with all of our buildings that we have that have stairways and that they have elevators. So this is the safest, most effective piece of mechanical equipment that we can utilize to get somebody down a set of stairs. It's got tracks that fold out, so it rides the staircase itself as the crew brings the person down. It's a very safe, effective, it's a time-tested piece of equipment that's necessary for bringing people down when you have flights of stairs involved. So those pieces of equipment, like I said, are very important to this being an ALS compliant vehicle. The rest of the things that make it ALS compliant are purchases down the road. Your ALS medications, your advanced airway devices that are not capital items, your disposables like your O2 masks, your IV catheters, and of course, the most important part, your personnel, your paramedics. So that is the chef's tour version of an ALS vehicle, what the purchase is for and what it is that you're purchasing.
Go right ahead, jump.
All right, so just again to summarize for residents who might be watching this, what we're talking about is procuring a EMS vehicle that needs a chassis. Now, we've looked at Ford, we've looked at Chevy, there are others, but there's only so many that are even making these kinds of vehicles. So it's not like you can go out to 10 or 15 different dealerships and they have them sitting. Now on that chassis then, based upon whatever we get for the best price that just put out, we have to put a box. That box is made by Crestline. Crestline does the attachment of the box to the chassis, correct?
You have that correct.
Then from there, you have to stuff it with medical gear. That's from Stryker. That includes everything from the stretchers, the Lucas gear and so forth, the Lucas equipment. And then you go to additional equipment from Zoll, which is the defibrillator equipment and the expense for all of that. And then stuff it up with disposables.
Yes, sir.
So when you roll up all of that, that's what we're really talking about. It's not like going down to the Chevy dealership and say, I want one EMS truck.
No, sir.
Right? And the design of what goes in the box is where you guys come in and deciding what we want, where to put it for the best functional use going forward.
Yes, sir.
Am I reading all that right?
You have that absolutely correct. There are the non-negotiables, the stretcher keeper, the EKG monitor. So then everything else gets to be in a broader spectrum. You have to put things in. It just depends on which is the best that meets the standard need. The compression device, for example, things like that. So, but yeah, you have 100% accurate grasp of what the purchase is, what need it fits, and how it becomes service ready.
All right. And in the procurement process, to get the best price, how would you describe what happened?
Well, that process is the easiest part of the process because the Florida Sheriff's Association puts out an annual bid. So this truck is pulled explicitly from that bid document through an approved vendor. So so the Florida Sheriff's Association, when they put out the bids for high ticket items like this, these companies have to compete, and it's a very vigorous competition to be able to make it into the bid system. So once they're approved from the Florida Sheriff's bid, they've given their best price. There's no negotiating. There's no haggling.
Okay, then the last thing is, and this is probably tangential, from one of our past meetings, we talked about how we would color
Yes,
this
sir.
truck. I assume we're going with the same design.
No, that we haven't even dealt with that yet.
Okay.
That's one recommendation.
Whatever it is that we decide here, who does that? It's not any of these? Is it
Yep.
Crestline?
You have options. Crestline can do it, or a local vendor here within the county can do it.
Okay. All right. So that would then finish it.
Yes, sir.
Put the paint on the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
All right. I think I understand.
Yeah, beauty is the vehicle comes white. So that
Right.
just becomes an add-on.
Right. I liked it and I kept it. So if you're looking at changing it, I'd like to know.
I'm glad you kept it.
Excellent. Thank you for the summary, which is important for everybody to understand. I'm trying to kind of package it in a way that people say, oh, you're just buying an EMS truck. It's a lot more involved than that, that's for sure.
Doesn't happen.
But there are some people who think, hey, we're just going down to the Chevy dealership and say, send us one, I mean, and when you write a check, that's not the way it works.
Not that simple.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Okay, since I know nothing about any of this.
Sure.
Does this truck and this equipment meet your wish list?
Does it meet? Yes, ma'am. Yes, Commissioner. It does.
Is there anything else you think we should add?
Well, to meet the ALS specs, it has, and then again, because Chief Joseph back behind me, we've got such a wealth of experience in the field, not just here in the county, but around. We've learned both internally, externally, what the best of the best equipment is. This is time-tested equipment. This is equipment that is held up to rigors. This is equipment that is very, very short on the fail side of service delivery.
Yeah, that was my next question, was whether Mr. Joseph liked it as well. Because we hire experts, I want to hear from them on topics I know nothing about. So thank you for doing all the legwork.
It's been my pleasure.
I believe it has this special air ride shocks, right?
Yeah.
The liquid cool. What did you want? Something kind of.
So, yeah.
I was going to ask you to mention that.
Yeah.
We were joking about that earlier. Go ahead.
It won't be hydraulic shocks up and down at the stoplights or anything like that, but it will have a really good ride system and it's the right engineering in it. And it's another reason that we like the Chevy, not to disparage the other vehicles, but Chevy has really, really got a good reputation for ride because that's important. I mean, you're going to go across train tracks to get people to and from the hospital to leave the island.
It doesn't do you any good if you're shaking people up while they're in the ambulance
Not
and
in
you
the
make
least.
them worse
Yeah,
before
bouncing
they
off
get
the
there,
stretcher.
then better.
Not
So
in the
I
least.
understand
How
that.
about engine modes? Do you have track and, high performance, speed, 0 to 60?
It is built to carry the load that it's designed to carry when it comes to the gross vehicle weight, and there's no problem with performance.
Okay, but
It's a 3,500.
All kidding aside, expected life, given, it would seem to me, it's not so much the miles, it's the hours, right? So
You have a good understanding.
how do you measure that? Do they measure hours on this?
They do measure hours. So you get the odometer and you also have the hour measurement on these
Okay.
trucks.
Okay.
And I can tell you that even in a busy service that I came from, we're running like 9,000-10,000 calls a year. We were still getting more than what we got a lot of value for the money.
So again,
No worries.
expected life, that given what we've been doing, is there any kind of projection? Is this going to last 15 years?
I couldn't really project that out to you because of how changes happen when it comes to the brain centers, when it comes to the emissions, when it comes to regulations that the trucks have to
Sure.
meet. I can tell you personally what I'd like to see you get out of the truck But I couldn't really put a number on it and be accurate for you.
But we should expect at least 10 years, no?
I would think that's probably a fair desire to get out of that truck. That's probably a very fair statement.
Is there anything else you would like to see us put in this truck that goes beyond the basic requirements?
Don't, this comes down to spending other people's money.
But, you know, we're doing all of this, and I'd like to know if they think there's something we might consider.
Have I transitioned to auction here?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so my experience has been with working with the manager and the electeds and the outstanding team here is first rate. Everything's been first rate. So there are going to be some things that you want to get. You want to get a drug box, or you can get an $85 Plano box that looks like a fishing box, or you can get an industry standard that is ruggedized, it's insulated, it's watertight, and you could spend up to $800 just for one box to keep your medications, if not more. So there are items like that I've already started building out a spec list on that for you as a secondary purchase. The important part was to get to Teresa and the team, the truck and the capital items. Okay. There's nothing else really that's thereafter that would fall under that capital item category, ma'am. Well, oh yeah, we're going to make some good recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, in my view, if what you're buying is one box, you might as well we're spending millions and millions of dollars to put this together. I would hate to think that we would save on $700 on getting a better box.
Our team works as a collective. I've been proud to say, and so I'm happy to be a part of it. And we really don't leave any stones unturned.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
We don't want a microwave on this truck.
Nope.
I think the gentleman behind you has something to offer.
Len Joseph, your EMS fire department consultant. Nothing much offer except to Ms. David. We did this to the team. We went through all the specifications. It's required for the COPCN. We meet all the requirements and exceed in some cases. And we got a COPCN delivered 2 to 3 months early. So if there are any issues coming up, we'll have time to address those issues before it becomes a critical event. So yeah, we have a good team. We're working hard. As you can tell, we're ahead of schedule. So we're meeting all the requirements and exceeding them in a lot of cases. So I have no hesitation at all. We're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you done? Peg, got anything you want to add? Questions, comments?
Thank you. It's a super, looks like a super vehicle. I just wondered what are the capabilities, considering that these vehicles sit outside the ERs with the engine engaged and park and, you know, running, adding hours to the engine, what elements do we have in the setup to accommodate for that?
Well, the trucks have specifically engineered within them redundant generators and alternators with considerations like that. So when it goes into a park mode, it will actually kick over to a different type of powering system while it's sitting there and idling. Because it's not just at the ERs, it's on scene too.
Yeah.
Once the wheel goes into park, you have that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just thinking I see it at ERs often as I have family in the field. So that's great. That was my big question. And then would it be fair to say once we get staff and a chief on board that there might be other optional equipment they may want to add? And should we sort of provide a budget line item for that? How does that work?
Well, as I stated earlier, I've already been putting together those lists of items that are just the minimum, then the step above the minimum. And so I believe that whomever walks into these desks will have a list of things that they're going to be happy with. And if they want a little bit more, it's really not going to be a drastic departure. Like I said, we're just both recently out of the field. So there's nothing that's changed drastically in the last year that would really be off the charts for somebody to walk in and say, why don't you have this? We've already thought, like Len said, we've met and exceeded the COPCN requirements in these. That Lucas device, that's not a COPCN requirement, but there's no way in the world you do not want that on that truck. You want that thing there. And as soon as you think you have a heart attack, you want that thing on scene.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your efforts.
You're quite welcome. It's been my pleasure.
Mayor, could I ask one question?
Oh, sure, jump in. Sure.
So following up, Peggy, I think you kind of
Yeah.
touched on something that's important. What, given the capabilities that we're going to have, not only with the truck, but the personnel, are there any plans to provide some basic training for the police department, the officers?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that historically, Commissioner, from my position as the Division Chief of EMS and also sat atop the County EMS Providers Association. So we worked exceedingly and collaboratively with our law enforcement partners. So it was the Sheriff's Office or municipal police departments. We brought in Stop the Bleed programs. We teach CPR to police. We've trained them and equipped them with Narcan. You talked about overdoses earlier. It's a scourge. And the more training that we can get for identification to make assistance in that, we're more than happy. Honestly, the engagement is up to the limits of the tolerances of staff. I mean, to make a police department be able to work simultaneously with the fire department and to be those assistant hands on a medical call, the sky is the limit, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I think, and then we've done this, I think, in the past. Once we get through the initial, burst of energy and doing all that we have to do, we could extend that and by providing some training at some of these condominiums.
Absolutely.
On CPR and.
So we've spoken, Glenn Joseph and I have spoken, and we've got some really good ideas for what you're talking about. Is called community risk reduction. So that's another phase of what we're going to be talking about. That's going to be your fire marshal inspection bureau, but it's also going to be heavy on the medical side. And it's not just what to do if Mrs. Smith has a heart attack. It has other things. It's fall prevention. It's about how to trauma-proof a dwelling, a residence that a person lives within. These are all community outreach things that the fire department has been tasked with, and we welcome it exceedingly to the point where we're like, okay, that was really cool. What else can we do? So I can tell you that, being a part of this EMS community here within the county, not that Delaware gives you short shrift on this, those Stop the Bleed programs are available through the trauma agency. Like I said, CPR, you get an affiliate with the American Heart Association. You can have CPR classes for the public, or you can go to a condo association or an HOA and teach CPR classes. And so those Stop the Bleed, we've given our police officers tourniquets, CATS tourniquets. Those are combat capable tourniquets. We've saved lives with just police officers using those things, whether it's a gunshot wound or an amputation by accident, a car accident. So what you're looking for, that community risk reduction, it's a three-legged stool. You've got the medical side, you got the prevention side, and then you've got the education side.
Very good. Thank you.
Quite welcome.
Okay. Delivery. How far out is it?
The delivery, speaking with the vendor from 10/8, he doesn't see why we cannot have delivery of their truck before this calendar year is over.
Ooh. We'd like to push, we want to push it out as far as we can. We don't want it that fast. Push it out, push it.
Longer out, the higher the price.
Well, there's a relationship there, obviously. Yeah. Okay.
I know, we'll have to find a place to park it.
Yes.
It's a good problem to have, because you got it at a great price, Mayor, especially considering the economy.
No, I recognize that for sure. Yeah. Okay. Anybody have anything else before we move on?
Doug, you can give them a place to park it in Dalton's garage.
There we go.
Don't have room in Dalton's garage.
Well, you got the spec sheet, the height, width, length.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be, we couldn't even get it in because of the height. You're right. Okay, well, we'll have to work on that when we get closer to it. Okay, if there's no questions, we need a motion.
I move that we authorize the purchase of this vehicle,
Not to exceed 300,000.
not to exceed $300,000.
And for that, I second.
Okay, I think we need a roll call vote on this.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemaker,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman,
Yes.
and Mayor Hillman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Good job.
Yes, very good job. Let's move on to item B in new business, which is the discussion on the marine accessory structure ordinance. It can be found on page 60. And The key on this is the discussion of the time plan that was laid out by Teresa. And I take exception to the time that was laid out here. Okay, so let me just jump into it if I may. Don't make faces now. Here's my issue on it. What's being laid out here or proposed here is that in late September, a mailer be sent out to all of the homeowners that are on the water. And then a meeting be held on October the 13th here by the planning board to go through the details of it. So basically letting all the homeowners that are on the water know, and so they can come here when it's to be determined what's going to happen. I think we need to do more detail of an outreach and do it by neighborhood. So for example, maybe one meeting is people that are on the intercoastal. Maybe another meeting is people that live in the enclave. Maybe a different meeting is people that are in Bellito. Another meeting might be of people that are on Russell Street. Or maybe it's a series of meetings the same afternoon, devoting an hour to each neighborhood. I just think we need to think through giving each neighborhood or each segment its own time, as opposed to everybody coming in and trying to deal with a crowd, or maybe people not coming because they don't think that attention is being given specifically to them. I think it's also part of our outreach program as well, of giving people and trying to enhance the communications with people in the town. So what I'm proposing is that we have a specific time for Bellito and another specific time for Russell Street. And we can determine if each is a separate meeting or if each is, from 1 to 2, we're going to deal with Russell Street. Now, it could be, when I say we, I'm talking about the planning board.
Right.
Or it could be a combined meeting held in the library, because the room is equipped with all the audio video. So it could be a meeting where the commission and the planning board together holds a meeting with Russell Street, because it could, it could be on the TV, it could be on the screen. But I just think Russell Street needs to have specific time for them, because the solution for Russell Street might be very different than the solution for the intercoastal.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And I think combining the planning board with the commission would save time in the long run, because at some point it's going to come to the commission anyway. So if we already know how people feel, and we can, because there are very different neighborhoods, the canals are different sizes, the problems on the intercoastal are different than the ones on the canals. And yeah, I think by neighborhood is the best way to do it, so that we can deal like with like, as opposed to trying to deal with everybody all at the same time.
John?
So I completely agree. My only point is that July, they're not here many.
No, we have to wait until October.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe it's November.
But then I think you need to take probably 2 months to do it.
I agree.
So October, November. So I don't see anything happening before the end of the year.
I'm with you. I'm not rushing into this at
Okay.
all. This is too important. Let's do it right. Let's do it once, get it done properly. Let's give the residents sufficient time.
Yep. Yeah, I just, my only problem was with the dates. We got to push them out.
Oh,
Give the
yeah,
time.
no, he didn't mean to,
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't mean to shorten the time.
No.
Yeah, that it was meant. Also, I would like to see if we can make arrangements for the commission to go out on the police boat as well, to go up and down, and let's find out the same kinds of things that the people on the planning board.
Oh, yeah.
Found out.
If the commissioners have not gone, I mean, if you haven't gone or John
No,
hasn't gone,
no.
then absolutely.
I don't think, has any of the commissioners gone?
Well, I've
I
gone
have.
only because
Oh, you have. Well,
and of course Peggy has a boat. I'm sure she's
She'll
gone.
know it.
I'm sure
Many
if
times.
Natasha hasn't gone, she has a boat. You know, I've been around because of, you know, my.
We're the non-voters
Well,
here.
yeah, well,
I could see.
what
But
can I
you
say?
can't go together. That's
No,
the
we
only
can't
thing.
go together, but I would like to go specifically on the police boat as
Yeah.
opposed to with somebody else, because I want to see what was pointed out to other people
For sure.
rather than just what I see.
Yeah, and I could do a refresher. I'll go again on the police boat. Peggy, what do you think?
Yes,
Does
sir.
make sense?
It does make sense if I could enlighten some of the geography of the plan. If you go through the Bellito Association, of which I'm member for 25 years, that will encompass Highland Beach Drive, everyone on the water, 2 lakes, the intercoastal for the entire area, and the north side of Bel Air Drive. Those are all, except for a few members who do not, persons who do not belong to the POA, Property Owners Association. That will encompass 2 canals, 2 lakes, and a portion of the intercoastal, plus the Spanish River under which flows under the bridge, I should say. So that association will encompass a whole group of the persons you're wanting to reach. Russell Drive is its own entity. And please note that I did quite a work in there in 2019 on their flooding and tried to get around, talk to most people who live there. There are quite a number of rentals. Back in the day, there were several short-term rentals. And then you have the renters and you have the owners. Possibly on Bel Air Drive, there might be the same conditions. So you're talking about different groups of persons interested, if that helps you. And thirdly, I think it's a great plan to reach people. You will have to have evening meetings as a lot of people are working in this part of the community.
Yeah, evening meetings are fine.
Yes, or late
you
afternoon,
know,
5:30.
Yeah. The lakes
that
in
helps.
Bellito might be different than the canals in terms of what's done. Maybe there's not one brush for all of Bellito also. So we need to hear from the people. Let them
Yes,
tell
sir.
us what they want, you know?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, I don't know whether the commission and planning board should do this together. I don't even know, is that legal?
Sure, as long as we notice the meeting, follow all the protocols, take minutes, record it. Yeah, and notice it. Sure.
Okay. Do we
Mayor, that
wanna-
would be very efficient. I would like to recommend very efficient use of everyone's time
Yeah,
to have a
that's
joint meeting.
you were saying also. Okay, then we have time to lay this thing out. We don't have to lay out the dates today. We can think about it. Maybe we leave it to Teresa to figure out the dates, Ingrid to figure out the dates, but there's no rush. We want to wait until people get back here. So maybe the end of October, beginning of November will be the first meeting. Maybe it's one evening we'll have wine and cheese or something. Let's make it very casual. Maybe we can do 2 groups one night, an hour each group. So maybe we can do this in 2 or 3 evening meetings, giving each group an hour. That
Sure.
makes sense.
Sure.
But let's give them enough time. Let's make sure we do this right, so we don't have to go back and revisit again in a year.
Very good.
Okay,
We'll put something together, bring it back at the next meeting for consideration.
fine. Okay, great.
Ingrid's on it.
Takes care of that. What's next on the agenda? Sea turtles, the sea turtle group. This is when John had mentioned, I guess it was a couple meetings ago, you had mentioned that maybe there's something we can do. Then I followed it up and you had mentioned it. Then we finally put it on the agenda. So maybe we can just talk about brainstorming, see if we can come up with something specific in the form of recognition. And I'm saying, maybe a small financial contribution. They don't need a lot of money. But maybe something beyond that. Certainly something for Barbara James. She did this for, I don't know, 14 years, 16 years. And then moving forward, something for the current group that's doing it. I mean, they get up every morning, rain or shine, 7 days a week. Opened up for
Well,
some brainstorming.
clearly, if I can go.
No, please.
I strongly support doing something. I see the effort. I actually have gotten up to watch them do what they do. And as it turns out right now, in case you're not aware, I'm shocked at the level, the number of turtles that have come ashore and laid eggs and how many steaks are out there right now.
Oh.
At least from the town hall here north. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's numerous.
Yes.
So then all those years making the trek every day, rain or shine, I think it's amazing. And I think they do a great job and it's all done on voluntary
Yeah,
basis.
we all agree, but
So
we need to,
I'm suggesting, and suggested before, a proclamation, as well as, ask them, what kind of a expense do they have that we could help them with? And just literally have them, hey, they might say a couple $1,000s.
we can find that out.
And then separate, is there some sort of a bonus or whatever we can give the two, a very small amount, but something that just as a gratitude payment?
I think a payment would be, my opinion, I think a payment would be out of line. I think helping them financially to defray their costs would be appropriate. But an actual payment, no.
A $500, payment for years of service kind of thing? No?
No, I don't
All
think
right.
so. I think recognition, yeah.
Okay. I had to try.
But if they have it, you're right, if they have expenditures that have to come out, then we should be able to, because I'm assuming they're minimal, we
Yeah.
should be able to certainly, if not pay for them, then help it. But no, a payment for services, we can't do.
No, I agree.
And proclamations too, a certificate recognizing that we think what they do is terrific.
For sure. Peggy is gone.
Do you
Got any ideas?
consider, we could do like a reception at the end of the year, honor them, something like that, at the end of the turtle season, like thanking them for the season? Maybe you have a luncheon or a reception for them or something.
Well,
Then give them a plaque to Barbara James and celebrate it a little bit, mix with the commissioners and.
for
whatnot.
sure.
Sure, that sounds like a good idea.
Are we still going to be doing the luncheon for the board members?
We did budget for that. It's in your budget. I didn't mention it, but yeah, you guys have the money to bring that. We can invite them to that as well and just add them to that group. We usually do that in February-ish, around Valentine's Day. We could do something to recognize them.
It might be a nice time to do that.
Add them to the group.
That way, there's a large group there that recognizes the work that they do.
If it's a bigger group, we may want to move it a little bit later too. Instead of having it exactly at like noon, you could have it maybe like a 2 to 5 or something. 2 to
Whatever.
4, kind of more of, you can do the patio back on the back
Right.
side of it to open up more space. I was just thinking you might need a little more space.
Okay.
But we could do something like that. Yep.
I mean, they do a wonderful service for the town, as John mentioned. Everybody is obviously
Yes.
wants to support their effort.
We should do something with Barbara. We should do something to recognize her years of effort.
Very
Something
definitely.
nice. We should.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do something for Barbara then. Okay, great. Sound like a plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
Done. Okay. Minutes. Minutes are on page 63. These are the June 7th minutes. I did find one thing on page 65. Under B, the second paragraph under B. Second sentence says, and place an article in the Coastal Star. It's not an article, it's an advertisement. That's all I had. Anybody have any other adjustments?
Well, we did talk about the turtle as a subject that we brought up, and it's not here at all. Just a
Yeah.
comment.
Let it go. Anybody have anything
good
else?
otherwise.
No? Okay, motion to accept the minutes of June 7th. Is there a second?
I move we accept the minutes of June 7th as presented, or as,
Okay, I'll second it
Amended.
then.
then you can say.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, commission comments, John, got anything?
I would just like to reinforce, again, our residents don't seem to know that we have these town meetings recorded and online, available at the website, as well as you can watch us on channel 99 TV, Highland Beach TV channel, as well as YouTube, as well as Zoom. So it just seems that I'd like to see us advertise that more. And again, on the manager's minutes, maybe we can put a little box in there, remind everybody to, watch your commission at work. This is an aside. As you know, I've been writing articles about living veterans and their stories and whatnot, and it's on the website for our veterans heroes. Thank you, Teresia, for your work on that. But I got an update from John Burry. Now, he's the oldest World War II veteran in Highland Beach, and he's now reached 100 and a half.
Wow.
Okay. And so I had a great conversation with him, and just to show you, he's got a sharp mind. It's amazing. He's saying, look, there are parts of my body that I ignored all my life, but now they're shouting for attention. And then he says, my wife's having a little hard time, but I'm now doing a lot of house husband work. So now I find myself having to do long afternoon naps. So I just thought the guy is just doing great. He's our World War II veteran. For those who are listening, he was navigator on a B-17 on 28 missions over Germany, dropping bombs. It's unbelievable, his story. And it's just, he is one of many that we have in Highland Beach. So my comment on that, fire, the setbacks, where are we on setbacks? The marine setbacks, I kind of lost track of that.
That's what we're going to meet with the individual communities.
Right.
Is there anything that I thought we were going to do before that in terms of
No.
culling the information that we had? No?
No, because we
No,
were
we'll
going to
just
hold
get
it
more.
and kind of customize it for each community.
Okay. Then I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, Evelyn?
What I'd really like to do this week is thank all the people who volunteer for our boards and thank the excellent work that our consultants do for us. I think that all of this makes it much easier for us to do an effective and responsive job on this commission. So I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Here, here. Agreed.
Agreed.
Just a question. Are we still wanting to do these monthly memos, commissioner letters? I don't know. What, have we gotten any feedback? Do we want to do
Do
them,
people
not do them?
like getting them or do they just find them annoying?
No.
Maybe when we have a topic, we just do it as we're going to do marine accessory structures. Maybe we have a commissioner take the lead and write a letter saying, hey, we're going to be doing this. And it's a personal letter to explain the process and whatever the topic may be, or I think they're still valuable. And maybe I still say we do every other month, but make it more specific to an item. Like whoever writes the, say, February one talks about the board reception or appreciation, and then say something nice in a letter to all residents. We appreciate the residents for doing these things. We will be holding a reception to thank them and the sea turtle groups. Those type of unique one-off pieces, I think has a good touch. That's my opinion. The personal letter still does well to come out on whatever it is that's coming up in between the manager's minute, whatever that topic may be. I don't know what it is, but marine accessory structure seems to make sense. The board appreciation, maybe, something that's more warm feeling versus overly technical doesn't make a good letter, but to thank folks and appreciate their engagements or.
I think also I was impressed with that whole list from the budget meeting of all the things that we've accomplished and all the things that are in the works. And I don't think people recognize how much has actually been done and is in the process of being done. I think people would like to hear that. I think, let them be proud of where they live, that we're doing a good job of making it a better place to live.
A commission letter on the budget. I can talk about the budget all day. I love it. People don't get sick of me talking about it, but if it comes from a commissioner saying, look what we're doing, this is what we're setting out as our task for our budgets.
For the meetings that we had, like the breakfast meeting at Coronado, and then the president's forum that we had, always led off with that. Here's what we've accomplished to date. And
but that's limited
no,
numbers.
that's very
I think-
limited.
Right. So
Where I was going on it is they said, wow. So you're right. I mean, even that limited group said, oh, wow, they really did a lot. So yeah, that might be a good idea.
I'm thinking, with 5 commissioners, maybe 5 letters in a fiscal year. And we can come up with some topics that need some push or topics that, to energize the residents or to do something. I'll put it out there and then, we could pick a rotation and everyone pick the topic. And I think it'd be good, well placed. I don't think we should let go of it. Maybe we don't know what exactly we're doing with it at this moment, but I think there are topics that would do well coming from the commissioners independently and through a personal letter. It's kind of something you'd be, what is this? And you just read it. And it's a low expense, high contact, and you can speak in your own voice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give it some thought. Okay. That's all I had.
Nothing here.
Okay.
I got a
Over to
long
Marshall.
list. So,
Include Gulfstream on it.
yep. So we'll hit Gulfstream. I'll save that last and I'll just kind of run through stuff. And Jeff's here to talk about Gulfstream, so I'll make him stay as late as possible. So as we had said, the Inspector General will be coming to do an IT review. Teresa and Mark Rutledge from Node IT, who's our consultant, are working through putting together all the documents. I've heard from some other communities that were approached to do this. It's going to be a little bit frustrating for all parties. We don't have any, we hold ourselves to the FBI CJIS standard. So what's good for the FBI is dictated for police departments is deployed throughout our organization. So that's what we're going to follow. We'll be a little more rigid to them than maybe they like. And if they're watching, I apologize, but I'm not going to let you sit down at someone's desk and ask them for their password and try to go that way through it. But I'm comfortable with where it is and what comes out of it. But again, it's again, the IG, they generally try to find something. It could be missing paperwork or we didn't do this or that, but we do all these other know before you go and type stuff and training that we do. So that's coming up, kicking that off on June 30th, which should be a good time. Again, as I indicated, Jeff is working with Len Rubin and I to kind of how do we look at our recertification program for condos to the state law? Do we walk away from ours and just go with the states? Do we keep ours in case the state decides to change their mind and we continue forward? And is there some cleanup definition and language that we should unify between the two? So condo folks and engineers know exactly what they're looking for. We call it X, they call it Y, but it's the same thing. Maybe we use the same language and definitions a little bit. So there's some cleanup work we'll have to do from that surprise special session. There is, again, you did know we did not get the appropriation request. However, there is the local support grants. This is another pot of money that the legislators set up for the representatives to make further requests. So we're going to refile in some fashion for maybe a couple I'm going to refile the fire, working with Peggy and Representative Caruso to, what do we do on more of the water swale lift station vulnerability requests, see if we can't shake something loose there. We did receive a letter from the Joint Legislative Audit Committee on some audit findings. As you saw today, we now have David in place. He's submitted that response to them for some of the accounting issues that had been nagging us in a previous audits. We've cleaned all that up. So we're working through that committee to do that. As I indicated earlier, the sewer lining project, 2 bids, 25% over engineer's conservative estimate. We have our engineers trying to look at the apparent low bidder to see why we're so far off on prices. So I think there's a good spot to land in there. But again, that project that conservatively was estimated at 1.6, their lowest apparent bidder is 1.98. So we're going to take a look at this a little bit closer. Either we clarify some stuff with the low bidder. What are we reading that you're not seeing, or vice versa? I heard there's some resin shortages. Some of the requirements that we placed on bidders may have been a little bit onerous to keep 1 or 2 other bidders from coming in. Maybe we rebid it, yada, yada, yada. We're going to kind of cross those bridges, but we're still moving forward with the project, but the costs came in pretty high. So we're going to figure that out. The last item I believe that we are going to talk about is Gulfstream. So about 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was at a manager's minute. Mr. Dunham, who's the town manager for Gulfstream, came up to me at lunch. We were having lunch and said, he's having some difficulty and concerns over their contract for building services, basically a building department that they use the city of Delray for. I said, we have a good group. I have the county's #1 building official. We have an IT infrastructure in place to do everything online. We have some ability to handle some additional capacity. I'm willing to entertain the conversation to help you out. So then about a week and a half later, himself, Trey, his attorney, came in along with their finance director. I forgot her name. Karen? No. Rebecca, thank you. Came in. I feel bad. Sorry, Rebecca, if you're watching. Came in and we talked about, what's their volume, what their expectations are, things of that nature. And then we followed it up a week later with another meeting. We got Jeff in, started looking through those items. They've given us their last 4 years of financials. Initially, their initial statement of the number of permits they have was a little bit underestimated. They're probably about 40% our volume with permits. So Jeff's looking through that. We've reached out to CAP. So CAP Government Services, who our vendor is. Jeff's reached out to them. They've made a commitment that they can provide the additional backup support, additional inspectors. We'll need probably a little more permanent assignment of a few folks because of the volume would really be substantial. Between the two would be enough to justify some additional. So CAP's on board. CAP also bid the service for Gulfstream. They went out to bid, they got Heiberg, CAP. And then we kind of said, we're willing to talk to you. And I haven't made a formal commitment because you need to make the formal commitment through an interlocal agreement. So we're looking at that. There's some things that we'll work with Glenn and on the interlocal agreement, what we want to see, what our expectations. Is there some upfront cost to tie up our IT infrastructure a touch to make sure it's prepared? So there's opportunity there to do this. It's just, maybe a little bit of the devil in the details. Once you're in, you can't just, 30 days walk away. There has to be some longer term commitment to get this in place and look at how that works. But we could do it. Again, they're about 40% our volume. Again, most of that's going to be run through CAP. It potentially offers a point of stabilization of that department should we run into a recession to have slightly more volume to cover it. So that's kind of where we're at. It looks like has potential. They're pushing. They called yesterday and said, hey, should we come to your meeting and talk? And I was like, well, I'm giving more information to the commission. Jeff's still running through the numbers. Can we align this? Can we do it and how quickly? So they're quite interested. Their commission discussed about it, and we're excited to partner with you. So their commission is excited to work with you guys. Again, they just, they've spent a lot of time with Delray. Delray is just, just can't keep up with their own volume because of the Atlantic expansion and all their development really doesn't align with them. So we have very similar socioeconomic type conditions for both communities, service expectations. I think that's why they see it as kind of a good win, and we'll be able to cover our cost and, you know, any type of expenditure that we need to cover. So it's there, somewhat humbled, you know, that they would want to, you know, it's a quick, you know, hey, they would love to come partner with us. So they see that what we're doing is good, effective, efficient. Kudos, Jeff. You know, we're kind of standing out as a, you know, a great kind of little building department and how it works with that hybrid. So, so the next time we talk about it, it might be bringing in the Gulfstream group and maybe a draft interlocal and kind of take a look at it. Looks like there's some possibility there. Unless Jeff tells me, you know, takes a little bit of deeper dive and says, we just can't handle it. So, you know, we're looking to move in that direction and partner with Gulfstream for building plan review, inspection services. Now, no planning, no code. They're going to say it's going to almost be very transactional in nature. Whatever is getting built or approved will have all of their approvals. And then basically it's the building permit comes over. We review, inspect it, and carry out those things. That's it. The re-inspection, the state re-inspection, recertification program, we got to figure that out because everybody's in it. So now we have to handle Gulfstreams, and we're going to have to see how that's the last little sticky spot. If all of a sudden the Highland Beach building official is vacating buildings in Gulfstream, it could be tricky. So we've got to make sure those pieces or the volume of that work, which they're working, Rebecca's working to get to Jeff on, you know, how many structures they see potentially in there. So
it's no code work.
No code work, nothing for no planning, no zoning. It's on them. We don't have to go, if somebody's building without a permit, that's on them. I mean, if we see it, we'll let them know and be like, hey, you got to go check it out. But we're not going to be involved in code or enforcement elements. They're going to say, here is a permit, process it.
Permit processing.
Inspection, coordinate all the inspections. And as a local enforcement agency under state statute, Jeff is the building official of record for them too. So he can make all those statutory decisions. So
the upsides are clear. What do you see as the downsides? What are the obstacles?
My number one concern is that this has zero effect on the quality of service that we're providing in the town of Highland Beach. That's number one. And I think that goes without saying, although I just said it.
For sure.
Obstacles, I'm actually seeing this as a great opportunity because it's an opportunity because of their permit volume to bring in enough revenue for us to bring in people from CAP and not have to hire, well, for the most part, full-time, which will actually improve our service level because now I'll have a plumbing, and I've already got them to commit to like a plumbing and mechanical inspector who does plan review to come in and work full-time in-house, which is going to actually help things for the town of Highland Beach. And I had a very frank conversation with DeWitt Delaney Judson from CAP, especially since I know them and I used to work for them. You know, he's a yes man, but we've really cut through the weeds here to find the right people to work here as inspectors that have the right mindset. And I want those same people, but now I want them full-time commitment here. I don't want, well, I'm going to send somebody up here because we also have to provide the same level of service up the street if we're going to do this with Gulfstream. Because they are, again, it is a very similar socioeconomic clientele. The downside that you really asked for, now that I've went on for that amount of time, is really just going to be the setup of whether or not we have to separate permitting systems and how that's going to look. And it's really, the downside is gonna be the amount of time it's gonna take me to do setup, because I'm gonna basically duplicate what we have.
Right.
And then just change permit numbers to have the word, it's just gonna say Gulfstream. There'll be our permits and there'll be Gulfstream. And I think we're gonna have initially a problem where people are going to log on. And even though we're gonna have their parcels, which will be easy to transfer in, I just foresee people just clicking on Gulfstream when they really need a permit for here and vice versa. But I think that's something we can work through. I don't really see the negative, because I feel really comfortable and very confident with the commitment from CAP. And I think the hybrid system from CAP is still the way to go, because if things slow down, we just use them less and their costs go, the costs go down. But I see this as an opportunity for us to actually improve our service, because we'll be bringing on some more people with more hours that have the capability to work in-house with us here and actually help our plan review process.
Now, the fact that Gulfstream is the majority of Gulfstream, single-family homes, not a lot of high rises.
No, they have 1 8-story. That's it.
Versus the majority of the work here is high rises.
It's all high. Yeah, it's 80%.
Right. So does that change in mix affect the way you manage this in any way?
Well, in certain ways with our structural inspector, it actually helps, because he's also certified as a single family, which means he can do electrical, plumbing, and mechanical and structural inspections on single family homes. So now we have the ability. Now he's also doing a lot of plan review for us, but that gives us more of the ability to just send one guy up there, or if it's not one of those. But again, it also, we can divvy it up on workload, but it really helps because of the people that we have here in place. But it's going to be helpful because now, where we can only send Mike out to single families, to do anything other than structural, he can do the majority of Gulfstream.
Were you surprised that they had 40%?
Yeah, I was surprised, because at first they
Sounds
said
like a
they do
big-
about 250 to 300 permits a year, but that doesn't include the subs, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, which we separate. So we're doing about 2,000, 2,100 permits a year. They're going to come in at the 800-900 range. So they're about that 40% range. That kind of surprised me. And at first it kind of made me go, oof, boy, 300, I was going to be like, yeah, we can absorb that, a piece of cake. But then 40%, and then, but it was really talking with CAP and then looking at the numbers and thinking about how many inspections I used to do for CAP, that, if you're used to coming here and doing 10 on a part-time basis, now you're going to do 14 and run up the street. That's really nothing.
So they might have 300 properties. They might have 300 properties, but it's.
With 300 separate permits, I don't know how many properties they have. They have like 960 or 1,000 residents.
Yeah.
But surprising, and a lot of them are single family, but apparently they're really putting,
They like to turn over their property.
they like to turn over. Yeah, they're putting
A
money.
lot of
into their
improvements,
property.
they're like, this year I don't want this, I want this. And they
Yeah,
just-
they're putting a bathroom in, but that bathroom is 3 permits.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, a building, electrical and plumbing.
Right.
And sometimes mechanical, but. And they do, AC change outs and all the other kind of stuff. But I think that the biggest benefit is we're not doing planning and zoning. We're not doing code enforcement. We're just literally, people fill everything out online and we just schedule inspections and do plan review. And as a result, we get to gain a little bit of staff here on a full-time basis that we'll have more control over. That'll help us with our plan review process overall. I'm kind of excited about it, to be quite honest with you. I was a little apprehensive after I found out, it was 800 permits, but now I'm actually kind of looking forward to it and kind of hopeful about it.
Sounds interesting.
Okay, so you're okay to pursue it a
Yeah.
little, yeah, okay.
You guys okay? Yeah, shoot.
So I would see one requirement would be to have a very transparent flow, IT-wise, and being able to enter all of the data and make sure that happens. Now, can we? Okay. The IT flow
Thank you.
is important to us, and how this is managed. So do they have a facility there that, we could use as they come back, to input the information, or No.
No, it's actually unnecessary because our permitting system is web-based.
Yep.
So they're going to have access for transparency. They're going to have complete and total access. I set them up with accounts. They can come to the back office. I'm going to teach probably their finance director how to go in and run reports.
So
we can
residents
separate.
would go to
They
their
go,
town hall.
they could actually go to we'll probably provide a link to our portal on their town website.
Okay.
Which is going to take them to our town website. We talked with Marshall about having like double logos on some of the components. But everything's done on a web-based system.
Okay.
So we're not taxing at all our servers or our IT here because everything is web-based for the building department.
Okay, so I'm just picturing myself as a Gulfstream resident, so I need a couple permits. So he then goes to the Gulfstream Town Hall, looking for a permit and then gets redirected.
No, he could sit home at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday
And-
online and apply for a permit, just like our residents can.
But does he see that it's going to Highland Beach? Or does he think it's just going to Gulfstream's Town Hall and like nothing has changed?
When you log on and you want to apply for a permit, you have to choose a parcel. Once you choose your parcel, it's going to know that this is for Gulfstream. It's not for Highland Beach.
You could get to our website through their website. They could go and say
Correct.
building permit, they click and it takes them to the entry portal that'll say Highland Beach, Gulfstream, and it goes in and it's our SmartGov platform that we pay for that we'll have to figure out whatever that costs for them to buy into could handle and process their volume of permits. But again, before they can apply, they have to have all these other preset criteria that's probably the heartburn is setting it up that once they say they want to apply, it has to wait for Rebecca or Greg or Trey over at Gulfstream to say they have every one of these sub-approvals. They have like an architectural review board. They have to go through all that before they come to us. And that's on them.
I'm just looking for a smooth integration, so in a pathway that doesn't cause confusion. How about, so we don't need to have any office space from them for
Nope.
if a guy to come in to immediately input. what
Absolutely
the
not.
Inspection results were or something like that. You can do it on the web from a PC, just give me a phone or access to the internet. Okay, then the other thing is, this isn't, tell me about CAP. Everybody's talking about it. I don't understand.
Okay.
What is CAP?
So CAP Government is a third-party inspection agency that has qualified and certified building officials, plans examiners, inspectors, and engineers.
Including certification engineers.
I don't know that they do recertification, but I'm sure that at a company their size has a special inspector for threshold
But
buildings.
it's not government. It's a private organization.
It's a private for-profit company. It's a
I kept
business.
thinking CAP was a
Right.
government entity.
And what they, right, so they do exactly, I used to own my own third-party inspection agency in Pennsylvania. And it's the same thing that CAP does, where you have a lot of small municipalities who don't really have the volume to support a full-time staff that has all with, a plumbing inspector, electrical inspector. So they supplement some municipalities, just like I did, or they provide full services, building official, building, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, all the plan review, and they provide everything.
Why doesn't Gulfstream just go to CAP?
So the problem with a third party is the same problem that the town of Highland Beach had with a third party inspection agency. It's a for-profit and it's driven by profit. And the problem becomes when you administer the code, if you don't have a staff assigned with the profit comes over everything else, which is why we had to fix things here when I got on board, where we had administrative amendments to the Florida Building Code that were over a decade old and 3 cycles behind because no one cared.
Right.
And I
you made any
think
money
that they
from
want a better level of service for their customers, for their residents. And they know that they're going to get that when you have a full-time building official who's invested in the community. And that's really why, because they did bid, CAP did bid, and in talking, I guess they were they liked their bid, but I think they know that they're going to get better service.
Okay, that's Again, I was just trying to understand that. That was a missing link for me. I appreciate that.
I would suggest you to ask them to break down the 700 or 800 permits that they issued in the last couple of years, break it down by month so you can see the seasonality of it. My guess is that many of their homes are either second or third ownership homes. So you may be looking at a significant amount of them during season only. So just so we don't get inundated with them, you
No,
know,
I
during
absolutely
3 or
agree.
4 months.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things actually I wanted to ask for, because the thing that I was disappointed when they gave us they only gave us the financials, and when I really wanted I was really hoping on having the actual permit breakdown.
Yeah.
So we'll have to reach out to Delray. They're good at giving information to us.
Yeah, because that's where Gulfstream's getting their information from.
Yeah.
Is from
So
Delaware.
let's see what the flow is.
But
Yeah,
correct me if I'm
absolutely.
wrong, when a lot of these, homes, especially in Gulfstream, wealthy people, they'll do the planning and everything before they leave. And then they want all that construction done when they're not here. So it may be the reverse.
It could be the reverse, of course, like their magnificent clubhouse golf course is closed during the summer.
Right,
You
exactly.
know, so it could be the reverse of what
I
I'm
know-
saying, but it could get all chunked in during a few months.
Well, we have a
So-
number of condominiums that are being rehabbed right now because they're back up north.
Yeah, well, some of the very high
Yeah,
end buildings only allow work to be done during the off season. You
Right.
can't do any work in season.
right, exactly.
So
Well,
we'll
just
find out when it gets.
From my
to that.
perspective, I see it as all upside with minimal downside.
Well-
If you can work it out, not only from an IT standpoint, from resource standpoint, and from not getting us into issues with conflicts.
I agree. I think it's partner with another similar town, and it's just being a good neighbor. And there might be something at some point in the future that they can help us with.
Going to run into problems with the contractors that work there, that they can figure out how to enter data on our site. Going to be learning curves, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, right. So, it's going to take a while. It's not all easy. But I mean, Jeff knows how to handle it for sure.
It offers an upside that frankly,
Well,
we have.
the upside's clear. That's why I was asking for the downside.
Very good.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
You got it.
Anything else? Okay, anybody have anything else? Where we call it a day?
Call it a day.
Okay, got a lot accomplished today. Okay, at 3:32, we will adjourn. Thank you all.